The U.S. is uniquely poised to make that change. Other countries coming to us is not going to, basically, we need to show leadership. We're the ones who can actually start this path. And for what it's worth, to date, the European Union's bilateral free trade agreements haven't had investor state. So as far as the free trade agreements regime, that's been a U.S. phenomenon, and we can lead by example in fixing it.
Right. There's also the possibility of U.S. intervention in the ongoing cases, because the U.S. can take a position on the proper interpretation of these treaties. One of the somewhat problematic aspects of these treaties is that, unlike almost everywhere else in international law, even if both parties to the treaty get together and decide that the treaty should be interpreted a particular way, the arbitration tribunal doesn't have to follow that interpretation. But the views of the United States may still be persuasive on an arbitration tribunal. In some of these contexts, the United States actually has a right to participate in these proceedings, but often doesn't exercise that right. And in, I believe, the NAFTA context, there is a formal mechanism for formal interpretations of NAFTA through the Free Trade Commission, is it? Where the U.S., Mexico, and Canada can get together and issue sort of binding interpretations. Although, even in that case, some arbitration panels have been reluctant to follow those binding interpretations of NAFTA.
And it's a good point that you raised, Marco, that in fact, in the Pacific Rim case in El Salvador, the U.S. government did submit what's called a third-party filing on behalf of the government of El Salvador in that case versus Pacific Rim, basically supporting the position of the government of El Salvador on an interpretation question. And so that is something that is at the discretion of the U.S. government to do. They don't have to do that, but they can if they want to. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay. All right. Well, you guys have
quizás, bueno, en el caso peruano, en los últimos años está habiendo una política muy agresiva que busca firmar acuerdos comerciales con varios países.
So in Peru in recent years we have a very aggressive policy of signing trade agreements.
El primero fue con los Estados Unidos, pero después se han ido firmando acuerdos comerciales muy similares con los principales países que invierten en el país, ¿no? En el Perú.
First was with the U.S., but then others with other countries that have significant investments.
Y parece que nuestros funcionarios han terminado siendo, digamos, o estando muy convencidos que ese es el camino a seguir. En el caso, por ejemplo, del acuerdo comercial de Perú con China, China no quería incluir en el acuerdo un capítulo de inversiones y sin embargo se incluyó a pedido del Perú.
So the Peruvian government seems to, officials seem to think that this is the good way to go, and in fact, in the agreement with China, China didn't want to have an investor section in that trade agreement, but it was actually included at the request of the Peruvian government.
Y actualmente también estamos negociando un acuerdo, ya está casi definido con la Unión Europea.
So we're currently negotiating another agreement with the European Union.
Y donde efectivamente también se incorpora un capítulo de protección a las inversiones.
And there will be a investor provision in that.
Por lo tanto, es un reto, digamos, para nosotros en el país abrir este tema en el debate nacional y buscar comenzar a modificar lo que por el momento, digamos, es un marco bastante rígido y que además se percibe como el único camino para un país como el Perú para lograr inversiones.
So it's a challenge for us to raise these issues in the political context in Peru and try to change a fairly rigid approach to agreements and this sort of economic and trade structure.
Por eso casos como el de Doha-RAN son un excelente ejemplo de precisamente esta situación que se crea con este tipo de acuerdos.
So the Doe Run or the Renco situation is a good example of exactly the kind of problems that are created.
Pero ya comienzan a aparecer otros casos, tanto de empresas de Canadá como también de los Estados Unidos, sobre todo alrededor de las industrias extractivas.
But there are other cases that are starting to appear from Canadian companies, U.S. companies, but mainly in the extractive industries, in oil and mining.
Y esto que mencionaba aquí de funcionarios que alertan, señalando que si no actuamos de esta manera nos vamos a un proceso de arbitraje, en el caso peruano también es una realidad.
So the situation of government officials who say, listen, if we don't do this, we're going to, do what the companies want. We're going to face one of these suits. This is a reality in Peru now.
Sin duda es un fuerte mecanismo de presión.
It's a very strong pressure mechanism.
Y además lo percibimos como un candado, como un gran candado que impide la posibilidad de hacer las reformas que nuestros países necesitan.
This is an important obstacle towards creating the reforms that we want to see in our country. Okay. Well, I think we can probably wrap it up there. Oh, yeah. Nick.
One quick question. Would it be safe to say that the only reason that the Peruvian government is including these clauses, these investor state clauses, to use it for leverage to get these projects approved as like a threat, or is there another reason?
Bueno, en el Perú, digamos, varios de nuestros funcionarios se han creído, digamos, el dogma de libre mercado y creen que este es el mecanismo adecuado, el único mecanismo para lograr atraer inversiones.
So our government officials believe strongly in the free market dogma, and they think that these kinds of clauses and agreements are the best way to bring foreign investment into the country.
For what it's worth, because I know that that's what they think, there have now been two major empirical studies that I suspect Jose also knows about that have shown, university studies that have shown there's no correlation between the countries that have these broad investor rights and their private investor state enforcement and actual increases in investment. So there is a belief, and a dogma is the word that he used, that is precisely accurate, but now there is empirical data showing that the use of the word dogma is very precise relative to there being any facts to it.
En América Latina, Brasil es un buen ejemplo de eso, ¿no?
See?
Brazil is a good example of this.
A huge increase in foreign direct investment, and it's a country that has absolutely refused to have investor state enforcement.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to the discussion today. I'd like to thank our panelists in particular, and I'd also like to thank the offices of Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, Congressman Raul Grijalva for sponsoring this. This is obviously an important issue that's going to continue to be a discussion throughout Latin America, around the world, really, and of course here in U.S. policy circles. So it's one that our organization will follow closely, and appreciate your interest and your attendance today. Thank you very much.
Say that it doesn't